After 21 hours of tense marathon negotiations in Islamabad, the high-stakes peace talks between the U.S. and Iran have completely collapsed. The diplomatic efforts hit a total deadlock, with neither the U.S. nor Iran willing to compromise on the strict limitations of Iran's nuclear program. The response from the White House was immediate. President Donald Trump has officially ordered a total naval blockade of Iranian waters. The U.S. military is now moving to prevent any vessel from entering or exiting Iranian ports, effectively closing off the country's maritime borders. This is a strategy of economic strangulation, designed to force Tehran's hand through financial pressure rather than an immediate bombing campaign. The diplomatic window has officially slammed shut, instantly shifting the crisis to a direct military standoff on the water. The center of this confrontation is the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow geographic passage that serves as a vital artery for global trade. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps has already issued a counter-threat, stating they will attack any unauthorized vessel that attempts to cross their declared lines. This standoff places the massive daily flow of commercial oil out of the Middle East directly in the line of fire. If this choke point remains closed, the global economy faces a massive shock, with skyrocketing oil prices likely triggering runaway international inflation. Civilian maritime trade is now being forced to navigate a heavily militarized environment where a single mistake could trigger a wider conflict. This is no longer just a regional dispute. It is a direct chokehold on the global economy that practically guarantees a wider international crisis. As the military tension rose, an unexpected voice for de-escalation emerged from the Vatican. Pope Francis issued a general appeal for world peace, condemning the ongoing violence and urging both sides to return to the negotiating table. President Trump responded with an aggressive public rejection, stating his personal dislike for the Pope and dismissing the Vatican's message entirely. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian immediately seized on the statement, reframing the political dispute as a cultural and religious one. Pezeshkian labeled Trump an enemy of Christianity and urged global Christians to protest the U.S. administration's policies. The physical blockade on the water has now been weaponized into a global narrative war, further isolating the U.S. leadership on the world stage. That isolation is growing within traditional Western circles, as the UK and France have explicitly refused to join the American blockade. Instead, London and Paris hosted an independent conference to form a 40-nation security pact designed to protect their own trade interests outside of the U.S. mission. This defection effectively leaves Washington to enforce the naval blockade largely on its own. While European allies back away, Israel is moving in the opposite direction, increasing its military support and preparation. The IDF is at its highest state of readiness, actively expanding its target bank of Iranian missile systems and nuclear launch sites. With European allies stepping back and Israel stepping up, the U.S. is moving closer toward an isolated, unilateral preemptive military strike. This entire conflict is driven by a single technical dispute that made peace in Islamabad impossible: Iran's massive stockpile of enriched uranium. To understand the threat, look at the numbers. Iran possesses roughly 1,000 pounds of uranium. That stockpile is already enriched to the 60% level. In nuclear enrichment, the technical gap to move from 60% to the 90% weapons-grade threshold is incredibly small. The U.S. and Israel demand the total handover of this material, but Iran refuses to surrender its ultimate strategic leverage. This highly enriched uranium is a ticking time bomb. As long as it remains inside Iranian borders, pressure for military intervention will continue to mount. Into this diplomatic vacuum, Vladimir Putin has introduced an unprecedented geopolitical offer to step into the middle of the crisis. The Kremlin proposed that Russia take physical custody of Iran's entire enriched uranium stockpile. On paper, this solves the core issue. It removes the material from Iranian soil while allowing Tehran to hand it over to a partner rather than a rival. But the plan is stalled by a fundamental lack of trust in Moscow's true intentions. American intelligence points to the illicit Caspian Sea smuggling route as evidence of a deeper military partnership. Reports suggest Russia is already using this route to supply the very weapons and drones fueling Iran's military capabilities. This makes the Russian proposal a non-starter for the US, who believe the uranium would simply be handed back to Tehran whenever it was needed. The reality on the ground is now reflecting this diplomatic failure, specifically at the Bushehr nuclear plant. Russia has suddenly evacuated all of its non-essential scientific staff from the facility, leaving only a skeleton crew behind. The strategic implication is clear. Putin's intelligence indicates that the US will not accept the uranium deal. Russia is pulling its citizens out because it anticipates an imminent, large-scale US or Israeli military strike on Iranian nuclear infrastructure. This evacuation is the final signal. Diplomacy is dead, the blockade is set, and the countdown to a catastrophic regional war has officially begun.